Hello there and welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first video of mine you are seeing, then welcome. Okay, so I picked up these palettes right here. They were kind of like a little birthday gift to me. I got all three of these really pretty, little adorable Stila eyeshadow palettes. They call them the Pocket Play eyeshadow palettes, and there's three of them, and they have these really cute little flowers on each of the packaging. This one is called Wildflowers, and then we have the inside right here. Now in this particular one we have more like a topper shade, a satin shade, a metallic, and then this matte shade, and then this is almost like a really soft creamy matte almost. So I feel like you kind of get a little bit of a variety in here even though you only have 5 shades. I'm going to show you each of the palettes up close like this first, and then I am going to insert a clip where I'm showing you these palettes in natural lighting along with some swatches, but I first want to show you these up close. Then the next one we have is Pretty Petal, little palette here, and this is another one that has like the same thing. We have like a topper shade, a satin, a matte, a metallic shade, and then kind of like that same creamy matte kind of formula. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but that's what it feels like when you swatch it. I just think these little palettes are so very cute. And then we have the last one here, and this one is the Desert Blooms eyeshadow palette, and this one is like a beautiful neutral. This one is more of like your all matte palette. There's no shimmer shades in this one. This is like a very classic color story, just very stunning. I think this one would be really beautiful if you wanted a little bit of sparkle and then paired it up with their single shadow in Kitten. That would be really pretty. Of course, now when I test this eyeshadow palette out, I am only going to be using these shades. So I'm just going to right here insert a clip of all of these palettes out that I've swatched them out. Honestly, I think they're really beautiful, and I was so pleasantly surprised in the Wildflowers eyeshadow palette. That matte black shade is incredibly pigmented. I feel like you can get some really nice depth to that palette if you want to, or even use it as a liner, which is the way I would use it because I don't really wear black eyeshadow on my lid. I don't know, and the topper shades are really pretty as well. I know that there's not like a lot going on to them as far as like on their own, but they are topper shades, so they are going to be really beautiful over the top. But I was very impressed with these. I just think they're really pretty. You don't hear a lot about Stila, and I don't know, I really enjoyed their single shadow in Kittens, so I just want to try more out from them. And I never tried an eyeshadow palette from them. I believe they had some many years ago before I was like really seriously into makeup, but I don't know, these little palettes are just right up my alley because they're simple. They're what I personally look for. I just wanted to see for myself how these palettes perform. So let me zoom you in, and I think we're going to first start out with the Wildflowers one, which does have that pop of green in it, which is so very pretty. So let me zoom you in and we're going to get started. Okay, first and foremost, on a Sigma E54, we are going to take this shade right here in the very center of the palette. Now that is a very soft eyeshadow, so it's very, very powdery when you pick it up on the brush, so I just want to mention that in case anybody is interested in these palettes. And I will have timestamps, of course, below for anyone who wants to skip around if you only wanted to see one of the palettes. Perhaps maybe there was a particular color story you were interested in seeing how it performed. I feel like they're a lot more pigmented than I personally thought they would be, because I know when you see the swatches like on Instagram and on their website, they look a little bit more on the muted side, which is what my preference is. So that's why I was really interested in trying them out, and I will say that I was pleasantly surprised at the amount of pigment you can actually get with these shadows. I was very impressed with that matte black shade. Like sometimes with black shades, they're not actually a true black, or they're kind of patchy, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes they're just not, I don't know, I don't know, sometimes brands just can't do the black shadow that well. And I was really impressed to see just how pigmented it was. But as far as I know the topper shades are, of course, a little bit of a pop of just subtle. The only palette to me, based on swatches only, because I have not used it yet, is the pink one. That one looked a little bit more on the subtle side as far as the swatches. I did have to build those shades up a little bit, so I just want to be transparent about that. But I mean, like I said, I'm into the subtle, I'm into the soft stuff, so it doesn't bother me personally, but I know some people like a lot of pigment in their eyeshadows, or they like more of the colorful stuff, and that's fine. If that's you, then these are definitely not for you. I feel like it blends out really easily. You can see just how pigmented it is when it goes on. Might have picked up a little too much on this side. I always love to start out with a smaller amount first, and then it's easier for me to add versus taking away, but I feel like these are really easy to blend, so it might not be such a big deal. If these were palettes you were still interested in, if you have an Ulta near you, definitely go in the store and swatch the palettes. I know at the Ulta near me, they only had a few of these left, like one each left of each palette, so somebody was definitely purchasing them, and I feel like they're definitely for a person who likes soft. Okay, now I don't know if I should try to pick up that really metallic shade with my brush or use my finger. I know I have these little bit longer nails. Okay, let me try my finger, and then I can always go in with the brush and try to, like, you know, clean it up a little bit, like in the crease. I want to show you how. Look at that. It's like super metallic. Okay, now I'm just going to take my brush and just finish kind of taking that into the crease and blending that out a little bit more. But I feel like you can really get the pigment with your finger with that shade. And I mean, look how metallic that is. It's very, very pretty. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I wanted to do one look each. I mean, I could always, I guess, do one eye with one palette and one eye with the other, but I was just kind of wanting to create a cohesive look so you can kind of see the full effect. Yeah, this is really stunning. I didn't apply as much as I did over here on this side. And I always go back in with this brush to lightly help make sure that's blend out. I'm going to add a little bit over here because I added more on the other side, so I want to build this up some so I can make it match. Okay, and then I'm also going to take this pretty little pop of green. I'm just going to take that shade on my finger. You probably could take that on a brush too, but I'm just going to see how it does like this. That's pretty. This is like a really pretty, almost fall-like palette. Like this would be a really pretty, easy eyeshadow palette that you can bring out during fall time, because that's what it reminds me of, like that more, little bit of a, I don't know, like a mossy green almost. It's very pretty. I might try to save the topper shade to put in the inner corner, because I still want you to be able to see it a little bit, but it is a topper, so maybe I can make it work like that, but it's really, really pretty. Okay, now on this side, on this eye, I'm going to try to pick that shade up with a brush. I just want to see how it might apply with a brush, and then we can always take my finger too, but I just want to try it out. I know a lot of shades like this perform better with your finger, of course, but I just want to see. Oh yeah, you can apply that with a brush. Applies really well, actually. So I am going to take my finger though and build it up a little bit on this side. But it's nice to know that you can apply it with a brush if you so choose. You can make it like a little bit of a softer shade. Okay, so I'm going to take a small angled brush and we're going to go into that black eyeshadow. I am going to be using this as a liner. I don't use black eyeshadow on my lid. I think that that green shadow would probably look really pretty over the top of that black, like use it as a base, but this is the way I like to wear black eyeshadow. I mean, that's very pigmented. I mean, look how, like, really pigmented that line is. I mean, you can see the difference. That is just a stunning eyeshadow. Okay, I mean, I'm very impressed. That's a very pretty eye look, and it reminds me so much of fall time. I really like that. So let me do my under eye right quick. I'm going to be using my Versed Serum Concealer in the shade 2N. My video that went up this past Wednesday was when I first tried this out, and I'm just trying to get more of my thoughts on it so I can leave a pinned comment in that video. So I'm wearing this for the second day. So I'm just trying to give it a couple more chances so I can at least give, still going to be kind of like a first impression kind of thing, but at least have a couple more days of wear for me to be able to give some initial thoughts. I applied a little too much. Okay, and then on that same liner brush, I'm going to go back in with this matte shade right here, and we're going to apply that to this outer half of my lower lash line. And then on that same brush, I'm going to go back in with that green shade, and we're going to apply that right in here on the beginning half, that lower lash line. Now I'm going to try picking this shade up, this topper shade right here in the palette on my brush, and then if I can't get it to pick up too much, I'll try my finger, because this is a topper shade, so I just want to try it out as an inner corner, especially because the shades on the lid turned out a little bit more deeper. Okay, well that has more of an almost peachy base. It went on more than I thought it would. Oh god. Okay, it looks almost like the, what's that shade, Space Cowboy from Urban Decay? That's what it looks like, the base. I completely forgot that it did have that base to it. So, okay. Well, you can still see it, but now it's not a bright shade for my inner corner, but I'm going to apply it on the other side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take their shade Kitten and go over the top, because that's not, I don't know why I forgot that it did remind me of Space Cowboy, like it's got that kind of base to it. I need a little bit something. I want more of a pop, so we're going to go into Kitten. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I need that pop of brightness right there. The shade Kitten is so beautiful. I'm just going to do the rest of my face and I'll be right back, and I'll tell you like blush and lip details when I get back. Okay, so here is this completed look with the first eyeshadow palette here. I really love this look. So for my blush, I'm wearing another product from Verse that I'm just giving this more chances for me to use it and see how I feel about it. This is the Shade Swipe blush stick. This one's in the shade Pinch. It's a very beautiful shade. And then for this lip combo, I wanted something like a really pretty brown to go with this eye look, because this eye look just screams fall to me. So I'm using the Tower 28 one liner in Color Me Fine. And then over the top of that, I have the Charlotte Tilbury Big Lip Plumpgasm. This is the new shade she released in this line called Nudegasm Diamonds. I know she had the ones that were like the Pillow Talk, like the fair and fair medium and then medium deep, I believe. She had two shades. And she recently released this shade too, which is basically like a really pretty goldy looking shimmer. And it's, now this one has a little bit of a plump feel, but to me it feels more of a cooling sensation than actually painful. I really do love this one. I love those other two. They were some of my most used products of last year when they first released, so when I saw she had this new shade, I immediately picked it up. I was so glad to see it at the Sephora and Kohl's near me when I went there in person this past weekend, and I definitely wanted to try it, and I think it's so pretty. I would swatch it for you on my hand, but ooh, I don't want it to burn my hand just in case. So there is that first look. I think the next look I'm going to do, I might go in with the Pretty Petal one and use some of these really pretty pinky tones. So that'll be the next eyeshadow palette that I use, but so far I'm very, very impressed. So let's go on to the next palette. On a Sigma E54, I'm going to start with this shade right here in the center of the palette. Okay, and I'm going to run that into my crease. Now, when I was swatching this palette out, I noticed that I had to build up some of the shades in this pink palette more so than the other two palette. So this one might be one that you have to really build up. So I went back into the pan, and I'm going to press that in a little bit more. I felt like the other two, based on swatches only, had more pigment than this one. But once you build that shade up, it's a really pretty shade. But this one's probably going to give you an even more softer eye look than the other two. Or, well, I haven't used the neutral one yet, but I'm just assuming based on swatches. This is another shade that is very, very powdery in the pan. Like, it does give you a lot of kick up when you dip your brush in. It's just like a really, really soft formula. Yeah, I'm finding this shade performing much better when you stamp it in. Almost like the way you would a pastel shade. And then this is a blending brush, by the way. I didn't even mention it on the other side, but that's what this brush is. Just keep going back in with this one in between steps just to make sure everything is nice and blended out. Okay, I'm going to go into this shade right here using that same brush. And we're going to press that right out here. This is another one that is very softly pressed into the palette, so it does give you some kick up as well. Now this shade's going on a lot more pigmented. And I'm not dipping too much into that pan for this shade, so yeah, this one definitely has more pigment. I feel like with the first shade I went in, you definitely have to build that one up, but with this shade, it's going on pretty pigmented just with a few taps. Okay, and then I'm going to take this shade right here on my finger. I'm going to place this shade all over the lid because I do want to add in that more topper shade over the top of this one. Ooh, that's pretty. And it has kind of like this really pretty green minty kind of effect, and I wanted to place it over the top of this, but it's a topper, so I felt like it needed a good base like this. And I'll probably apply the metallic shade to the lower lash line this time instead of on the lid. Those metallic shades are really, really pretty. I know a lot of people love those very impactful shades like that. I do think they're pretty, but I'm much more partial to just a regular, more satin shimmer. I just find that I just like them better because they're a lot softer. But that's just personal preference, of course. And then I'm going to take this really pretty greenish minty kind of shade on my finger as well. And you can kind of see how it looks like it's very, very, very sheer. And we're going to place that over the top. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, that's really pretty. I don't know if you'll be able to tell on camera because of my ring light and everything, but it's got like a really pretty soft green sparkle to it. It adds just like a very subtle pop on the eyes. It's nothing too intense. And then I'm going to take this metallic shade on a small angled brush, and we're going to apply that all the way across my lower lash line. That's very pretty. Now it's going to be a little more subtle because I am using a brush, but now I don't personally mind that. It would be more impactful, you know, using your finger, but because I want it in such a precise location, this is better. But it's still very pretty applied with a brush. And then using that same brush, I'm going into the kitten eyeshadow that I have from Stila. I'm going to pop that on the inner corner here. This is such a beautiful shade. I'm glad that it does exist as a single, and honestly, I feel like it would take you a very long time to go through it because you only need such a little amount of it. Because I know it's not like a very cheap single shadow, but I feel like with the amount you need, you wouldn't just fly through it. Okay, so I'm just going to do the rest of my face right quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, here is this completed second look. I really think it's very pretty, very simple and easy. And as far as the blush that I'm wearing my Milani Rose Powder Blush in Romantic Rose, which is like my all-time favorite blush ever. It's the only blush in my collection that I've actually repurchased. And then for my lips, all I'm wearing is this e.l.f. Glow Reviver lip oil, and this one's in the shade Money Mauve or Money Mauve, however you pronounce it, and that's all I'm wearing on my lips. I didn't wear a lip liner this time or anything. There we have that look, so we're going to move on now to the all neutral palette. I love how I saved the most neutral one for last, so on a Sigma E54, I'm going to take this shade right here in the palette. Now, this palette is an all matte palette. So it would definitely be like a perfect companion to some, like if you have really pretty single shadows, like shimmer single shadows, that would be really pretty. If you're not like a full matte eyeshadow kind of person. It's a really pretty shade. This is another palette I've mentioned with the first two, and I will say it with this one as well. The shadows do kick up a lot. Like there is a lot of kick up in the pan, so just keep that in mind. And it's with all of the matte shades, like every single one of them. They are very powdery, but they're very, very soft. That doesn't bother me personally, but I always like to mention that. But now I am somebody that I don't worry too much about fallout because I do my eyes first and then my face last, but just you might want to mind the amount you pick up if you're someone who does your face first. I mean, you know, if you were even interested at all in these palettes. If not, I'm sure you have palettes that look exactly like these in your collection. If you are more of a neutral eyeshadow fan, then you have palettes exactly like this. I don't know, to me, I just thought they were really pretty, and I don't know. Okay, now I'm gonna mix this shade and this shade together using that same brush. I'm just gonna tap once and tap once. Because these are really pigmented anyway, because they are so soft, so I just need a little bit. I'm gonna dip into the deeper one first and then the softer one. Ooh. And I'll place that out here on this outer half of my lid. I'm going to pick up a little bit more because I didn't pick up just too much from that first dip. I just dipped once and then once. So I'm going to go back in with a little bit more. And then I just keep going back in with a blending brush and just blend around everything, just to make sure everything is blending together really nicely. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I dip twice in each shade. Okay, I dip back in once in each shade again because this side looked a little bit darker, so I want to make sure everything matches on this side. And then I'm always going back in with that blending brush just to make sure everything is blended out. I will say though, these shades blend very easily, like I haven't struggled with blending any of them. Okay, and then I'm going to take this shade right here. We're using that same brush, I'm just keeping this very simple. Of course, this is like my favorite brush. It actually used to be a different one from Sigma, but I don't know, I really like this one. I just feel like this one works for what I'm looking for. You know, if you want, with this particular color story, I know that e.l.f. Cosmetics has, now theirs is a 4-pan, not a 5-pan, but I think it's I Like You a Latte or I Love You a Latte. I can't remember which one it is, but that looks very similar to this, and that's an all matte palette. I know Milani has one, I think it's called Whiskey Business. I think that's what it's called, and it's also an all matte neutral warm leaning palette like this one, and I think that one actually has 6 shades. I've never tried that one before though, but I have seen that one before. So I mean, there are definitely more affordable options for a color story like this out there. I mean, you know. But those two come immediately to my mind because they are the most similar to this that I know of off the top of my head, like for another small palette. Because some people really love these small eyeshadow palettes, like they don't really want a lot of options like those really large palettes, and I understand that because sometimes I like those types of palettes, and then sometimes I would rather have something like this, a 5-pan, a 4-pan, you know, something like that. Okay, and then I'm going to take this shade right here. I'm going to take that on a small angled brush from e.l.f. And of course I'm going to use that as liner. I actually had a new eyeliner pencil that I wanted to try because yes, I did buy one. And I know I should not have, but honestly, I'd been wearing that ColourPop brown eyeliner like every day for, I don't know, it was a while, which a long time for me, I should say, like at least over a week, and that's a long time for me because normally I don't wear them. So I have one that I bought because the shade is described as a warm brown. But because I have this palette, I just decided I'm not going to use that today. I want to apply this because I didn't want to apply a shadow over the top of that liner because I want to test it out. But I will have a video coming up soon where I'm testing out some high-end makeup that I picked up recently. Okay, you can just see, just a little simple line, nothing much. Okay, and then I'm going to take this shade right here on that same angled brush, and I'm going to line my lower lash line with that all the way across. Okay, I'm not sure if this shade will be bright enough, but I'm going to try taking that on that same Sigma E54. I'm going to try to apply that to my inner corner to see. I wanted to try to keep this kind of more on the mattes. Yeah, that's not bright at all. Okay, well, I'm going to apply it to the other side. I was trying to keep this an all matte eye look, so I'm just going to take Kitten again. I'm just going to take that. I know it's a shimmer. I wanted to keep it all matte just using this palette, but that shade is just a little too deep to give me any kind of brightness. So we're going to place a little bit of this over the top. Okay, so I'm just going to do the rest of my face right quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here is this third and final look with the third palette. Yeah, this one might honestly be my favorite because I really love neutrals. Okay, and as far as what's on my cheeks, I'm wearing the Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Powder Blush. This one's in the shade Desert Rose, which is a really beautiful blush. This one reminds me, like on the way it looks on the cheeks, it reminds me of my favorite Milani blush. And then on the lips, I'm wearing the Makeup by Mario Ultra Suede Sculpting Lip Pencil in Rich Mauve. And then over the top of that, I'm wearing the Makeup by Mario Moisture Glow Plumping Lip Serum in Rosewood Glow. This actually was like a little mini set that you could get for your birthday at Sephora, so that's what that is, which I'm happy that I was able to get this one because for a while it was out of stock. It come back in and I managed to pick it up. And I'm glad it did because I didn't have any lip products from him and I do like it. I think that's really pretty. It's a really pretty combo. But okay, let's talk about these three Stila eyeshadow palettes. I like them. Now, do you need them? No, of course you don't. If you have neutral palettes already in your collection, more than likely you can easily recreate these. Or if you have a single shadows, more than likely you can recreate these. I mean, these are definitely not unique as far as color story. I like them though. I think they're very pretty. They give very simple looks, which is what I personally like, so that's why I like them. And I'm glad I picked them up because, you know, I have no complaints with them. I think they all perform very beautifully. I've worn them now. Well, now, I haven't worn this one, of course, all day long, but the other ones I wore all day long. Didn't have any issues with them. They were easy to blend, easy to work with. A bit powdery in the pan, but not a big deal for me personally, but they're very softly pressed eyeshadows. But I don't know, I think they're very pretty, and I think the packaging is also just really cute and really just stunning. I think this would be, if you had like a little vanity and you had a space where you could display them, I think that would be really cute, especially if you love flowers. I do like them. I think they're very pretty. This one, of course, I might be a little bit partial to because I do love the neutrals, and I like an all matte look. I know I did pop Kitten in the inner corner and it's a shimmer, but that is really because that palette didn't have a shade light enough to really pop, make my inner corner pop. But other than that, I love an all matte eye look. I just think it's so pretty and simple and just classic. But I'm glad that I picked them up. I'm glad I have them in my collection. And I think the way I try to look at it with these palettes, or any eyeshadow palette that I pick up, when I do like a no pen left behind, like let's say I do a no pen left behind like next year, for example, because see, I've already used these technically for this year, but let's say that the random generator picked these. I would be so happy to use them again, is what I mean. Like, I would not pull them out of my collection dreading using them. So that's the way I really try to look at eyeshadow palettes now, especially because I do have, you know, I do have a lot of them, so that's the way I try to look at it. Would I be happy that a random generator picked these three? And I would, because I think all three of them are really stunning. But I do hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I hope you will please consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you are alerted to all my future uploads, and follow me on Instagram at jessicadeerly. All of these products will be listed and linked for you below. They are affiliate links, so if you click through and purchase, I do earn a small commission, and if you choose to do so, thank you so much for supporting me and my channel, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!